I thought I'd better slow that down so you can see what is actually going on here. What I'm doing is I'm pressure flaking an obsidian slab into an arrowhead point. It's a particularly nice piece of obsidian, and it was cut into slabs purely for preservation of material. Now, on a lot of levels, there's nothing to do with primitive here, but you do end up with a beautiful arrowhead. But what it does do, if you care for it, is it teaches you a lot of thinking about the actual profile that you should be looking for on any level when you're flint knapping. What I'm doing is I'm precasting over a flat face, precasting the flakes, but you can't just shunt them flakes out into a flat arena because they expand too quickly, and that means that they can't get the distance they want, and you end up left with the flat bit in the middle. So a lot of people that work with this kind of approach use a grinder and make the whole thing oval, so it's got some weight at the middle and it gently ebbs off to a sharp edge, and then they put the platform in and they flake it like that so the flakes can run out nice and evenly. I like to combine two approaches, so on the first level what I'm doing is I'm using a little quartzite stone and setting up a platform. But with this being such a beautiful piece of obsidian, the flake scars are really important. So the way I manufacture my way through gives a mildly random finish to it. But what you can do if you want to cut that out is you can go over to the grinding plates, and you can literally start organising that platform and taking anything random away from it. So you can set the perfect pitch, and you can even turn it over and grind the face that you're intending to flake, and that means every single flake that goes over there has the same value to itself as the one next to it, and that can take quite a while, obviously. But it becomes the difference between an arrowhead that looks okay and an arrowhead that looks astonishingly beautiful. And it also builds awareness of what you're pushing into. And again, I'm using a copper tipped flaker, which I like to keep in good condition. The alternative to this obviously is deer antler, which is what they would have used to pressure flake in the Mesolithic period and the Neolithic. But I'm telling you for a fact, once they started notching arrowheads in the Bronze Age, which was a period after they'd gone through the Chalcolithic Copper Age, they would have definitely used the copper as a pressure flaking medium. And the reason for that is because antler gets quite soft during winter months or wet seasons, and it takes a lot of resharpening. Now, I didn't completely polish that face. I've just done something that's kind of helped to set the scene. But when I want to make the top class arrowheads, the best I can produce, then it does require a full polish, and to fully polish a face once it's had its ovation set in can take a good hour or more per side, the way I'm doing it by hand anyway. And it's still a great pleasure. There's a lot of things that you have to consider when you are pushing these flakes, which is the amount of force you're putting in there, because if you put too much, the flake will just shoot right across and take the opposite side of the arrowhead off, and also the angle set and the steadiness of that push. You almost have to think of the flake that you're pushing off and kind of become it, which is nice. So that's a nicely executed flake set. Most of them are travelling out almost to the centre. These ones have come to a bit of an abrupt halt here, and quite often if they're doing that, I just pick the ends up with a fingernail. And both of these have had their flakes sent on this side, so now it's time to turn it over and present a set of flakes from the opposite side, and you pick which ones you're going to do. This one's got a little bit more volume, meaning it climbs up steeper just here than this side, so I'll choose to do that side first. Quite careful. You can steer, as you put a platform in, you can actually steer what's happening rather than just sort of randomly smacking away at that and putting a platform in. You're still using pressure and abrasion to remove that oil in an efficient manner, so you begin to get a nice platform set there. And that to me doesn't look like it's got the strength or the content yet, so we just go back to that plate and put a bit more into that. This diamond plate is a 400 grit. I actually prefer the 300, which is a bit more aggressive. It's starting to look good. And I'll dip down this side a little bit as well, because what that will do is it will force the flake to be a bit more chunky at the beginning of its journey. Which, if you're not a napper, that probably all sounds a bit like a foreign language. So sorry for that. But whatever way you look at it, it's still crafting, and crafting is good. Okay, so the antlers, the copper tip is sharp, very gentle upper tip here, thinking of spacing between each flake and thinking of the push direction. You can clean up on the pad as well. And I like to look at each flake now as I go, as they're getting longer, to make sure that I'm not causing something that I don't want, because if you do, what you can end up with is you can end up causing repetition of a flake that run badly. If you're keeping your eye on things as you go, you can get the opportunity to rectify a problem. So that one didn't go so well, so what I'll do is extend the flake space just a little, and that will assist the next one going a bit further. There's still more to be said, but that's what workshops are all about. So if you're liking this and you fancy it, then you can always go direct to my website, have a look and see what availabilities I've got coming up, and come out and have a day out, do some napping with us. Okay, so we have a nice preform, and now it's time to put some notches in. And so what I have here is a flattened off copper flaker, and that just wants a little bit of tidying up from the last use. This can be a heartbreaking affair if you get this bit wrong. And on this occasion I'm going in for a notch, side notched ishy style point. I will start off very gently, particularly if you want a fine entrance, otherwise you rip away at the sides. It's also important to try and listen to the removals to make sure you're not crunching. It wants to be clicky. If you start crunching, you close the environment down. Again, there's different styles and different ways of doing this. You might want to widen it out once you've entered into the area, and that's another technique that's used. I'm sure a lot of flint knappers have different techniques for different things. As long as you get the job done, I guess that the technique you're using is right. If you find yourself pushing too hard, that can often result in finding what you're preserving is either snapped in half or something flies off that wasn't planned. So it's there we have it. One pressure flaked obsidian point.